Welcome to the GameSkinny Roundtable. This is episode 12. Tonight is August the 28th. I thought it was the 26th for a second. That we're recording. You're not going to see this because we are not streaming anymore.
Well,
but we are still recording at the same time. So news is current as of now. But we're switching things up again. And
we're going to be more focused, and we're not really covering news anymore. We're going to have a focused discussion about a current topic each week. So this week we're going to be chatting about kind of violence in video games and recent things that have been coming to light that we think are worthy of discussion.
Deep, relevant topics.
We're going to be a real roundtable.
Meaningful topics about life and video games.
And the answer is 42.
And don't worry about it, because next week, if this doesn't work, we'll switch it up again. So
heaven help you if you keep track of this, because you know how much we've changed.
We will confuse you until the point that you are so confused that you will be one of us.
Heaven knows we've had.
And if that makes sense to you, then good job. Well done.
Because they like us and stuff. But
can we change it to that 80? Okay, go ahead. Never mind.
Oh, really? You had more to say.
I was just going to say, let's just change it to the ADHD roundtable.
Oh, heaven knows. Anyways, tonight we have Brian. Say hi.
Hi, Garibaldi. You know me. Come on now. What's up?
Dewey.
I don't know you.
Dewey. Ernesto.
Hello, I'm back. Wasn't here last week. I was...
he was dead.
Medically detained from coming in here, but I played a little. Yeah, it's a good one, right? Even if it wasn't, it was. Played a little Saints Row in preparation for this one. I do feel like stabbing somebody right now, so let's do this.
Really?
You're giving them
not like installing stripper poles until like the White House.
I mean, that game just makes me want to be the president of the United States. That's all I want.
You're giving the people who want to get rid of violent video games something to stand on with that comment.
That's fine. It's also pretty much a testimonial, so if I actually do that tonight, I'm going to jail.
Gary is here as well.
I'm Gary. I've now become Fix All the Things. So,
Fix all the things, Gary?
Yes. I fixed all the things, and now we have a working border again for our recordings, because we are no longer streaming. So, fixed all the things.
Fixed all the things. He's getting better, because he was also the one that wrecked everything. You know, I like this improvement. We also have Jay. He's
Hello.
in now and again.
Yeah, I will not be here next week, but I am here right now. I was able to be here last week and chat about gender in games, which was really fun. If people missed that,
That's a really gnarly knee, Jay.
Thank you. That is my knee. It's fuzzy and fantastic. I edit for GameSkinny. I do that whole thing.
And he does a good job at it.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
I haven't seen you in a while. I'm waiting for edits on my stuff.
Hey,
It makes me feel good about myself with his edits.
If you submit articles generally between 4:30 and 8:30 p.m., then I will edit your things.
What if they get promoted, or do you only look in like the lobby?
You can request for
If you
edit.
get promoted,
okay.
then you are edited.
Oh, well then. Well, no, because they auto-promote it. Anyway, that's besides the point. We are forgetting Louis, who is falling asleep waiting for me to introduce him.
I bet you thought I was asleep. Yeah.
It's just a liquor.
And then we find out he really was asleep.
It's always possible, but he's here, and he may be drunk, but
I don't
he's
think
here
there's a
and
maybe
is
to
ready
it.
to talk about violence and drink video games.
Violence and drinking.
These are related too. And I'm Steph. I still host. Heaven knows why.
No,
Thank God.
that's
Thank
Heaven
God.
knows why.
that's
But,
shenanigans. You don't host.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm just here to listen.
Listen to yourself speak.
Yeah. Anyways, today we are going to discuss violence in video games. We wanted to get on this subject because of current news events. There was a child who happened to shoot his grandmother in the face.
No, back of the head. Back of
the head. I like saying
I
in the
thought
face.
I read that it was in the face.
No, it was back of the head.
Yes.
Come
So
on,
back-
guys,
that-
read the source material.
It's the
Oh, you're right.
But I do enjoy saying in the face.
back
I
of
am
the-
a terrible person.
Well, how
Back
about
of
back
the
in the
of
back of the
mouth?
head.
Back of the face.
And it is blamed on the fact that a child possibly played a video game that taught him how to shoot his grandmother in the back of the head.
Not in
the
the
story
face.
goes that he was playing GTA and immediately, put the controller down, walked over, grabbed the gun, and shot his grandma in the face. That's the story, which I don't believe it at all.
And
I don't think it was that immediate. I'm pretty sure it's just like earlier in the day the kid was playing GTA. It wasn't
No, it
like,
says-
oh,
You know what I think?
He said
the
shot
thing-
his grandmother in the head a few minutes after playing. That's what it says.
I feel more like the detectives walked over and looked at the video game pile and found, hey, this is Grand Theft Auto.
In the midst of Kirby and
heck, Kirby was a
Princess
great violent
Peach.
game. He
It-
ate people.
Hole.
I mean, I don't know. That's like if I did a crime and the detectives went through my room and found my porn collection and said, "Oh, Louis a giant pervert because he has this stuff." It doesn't
He's a
make
sex offender.
I forget who said
You
it.
have
It was
An
a
actual
comedian.
physical collection
Of porn.
of
He does.
porn.
He has the giant box of porn.
You bring this by me again. You
This is an intervention.
But seriously, he's got the 40-year-old virgin box of porn stashed
All
in
right,
his room.
moving on. Jay had a point.
Oh, I was just gonna say, there's a comedian who said, like, if I ever commit a crime, I'm gonna do it with a copy of Twilight in my pocket and Justin Bieber on my iPod, because it's a very
They need
silly
to go
thing.
down.
The whole crux of this is people are jumping to blame GTA and blame violent video games, as they always do in these sort of scenarios. Even though the real fault should be, why does 8-year-old child have access to a loaded gun
This is America.
just lying around?
America.
Why
Like,
don't
why did this child have this so readily available, loaded, and like know how to use it and like take the safety off? Like, there are larger issues at play here.
The thing is here in America, when you have this thing called a brain, and then you also have a gun, there's another thing you also have, a safe. But obviously, this group
Or
of
a
people
rack
did
or
not-
something.
Yeah, but obviously these people did not have this thing we call a brain.
I would like
Alright,
to also
wait a-
point out where this took place. The fact that it took place in Slaughter, Louisiana.
In a trailer park, I might
For,
add.
in
for
a trailer park, and trust me, it's really hard to find a space for a safe in a
Yeah,
trailer.
but, I mean, we also have to
True.
look at the factors leading up to this besides the video game. I mean, this kid, he comes from a broken house because even though the parents are in the picture, the grandmother was the guardian.
Mhm.
So something's telling me that everything wasn't kosher in that situation. That
Right.
well, good
problem.
news. The parents now have custody of the child again.
Wonderful.
Durr! That's great.
Awesome.
So,
You're welcome for that tidbit.
and the reason he wasn't incarcerated or put in juvenile hall is they said
From
that
90008000000.
Oh my god, I'm going to kill my phone! Die in a fire!
Okay, so
That's not
the
getting
reason
edited
that-
out.
the reason he wasn't put in any form of correctional facility was because a person cannot be considered to have committed a crime until the age of 10 and up.
What?
Really?
According to the article, yes.
I did not know it was 10.
the perfect crime.
Premeditated.
So the other thing, looking at the article, is that, I mean, they have no idea what the motives were, or if there even were motives, or if it was an accident.
Well, if they can't even arrest the kid because he doesn't know what he did, I guess there really isn't a motive to speak of because he doesn't really fully comprehend what he's doing.
He was testing her respawn time.
Wow.
But see, the
Okay.
thing is,
This is getting really dark for our podcast.
GTA, which I'm sure you know of, is rated M, but it was in the hands of an 8-year-old kid. That's a problem. You can't. That's the parents' fault. That's the guardian's fault. An 8-year-old kid is playing a game that he can't comprehend. He doesn't. I'm pretty sure you don't really grasp the concept of death until, something like 10.
Okay,
So-
but let's play devil's advocate here. At the same time, how did he know to go get that gun? How did he recognize that it was a gun? And how did he know how to point it at the back of his grandmother's head?
Because he'd been shooting people
Well-
all day.
This is America. It's kind of
It's
kinda
not like
Thing.
thing.
it's not like the idea of a gun is so foreign to an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Right.
Like even for toddlers, if a toddler finds something vaguely stick-shaped or gun-shaped, they immediately think it's a gun and will point
Mhm.
around and say bang bang.
Yeah.
Like
there's
that happens all the time. Like
There's
that's
a
just a kid
2-year-old
thing.
in the house I live in right now that plays with a toy gun all the time.
But also look back before guns were a thing. Guess what little kids ran around with?
Bows and
Sticks
arrows?
played sword fight and bows and arrows. I mean, it's just human nature. We invented
Killing.
weapons like what 50,000 years ago.
Okay.
That's just how it's been. And so guns.
Weapons
is the
are,
weapon
weapons
now.
are always a thing.
Right.
Yeah, but do you think, because this is what the other side has to say, and it's that video games do affect your behavior that
No.
way, because you can identify with it easier. As a child, I'm sure when you're as a child, you are more susceptible to that sort of thing. You're playing a character and
Right.
controlling their actions and seeing from their viewpoint, doing all of these things.
Well,
Like,
again,
in that
that's-
case, with that, and for mentally unstable people as well, you're putting them in reach of doing these things
See,
and
the thing is
identifying with them.
these games are rated M for a reason because of that. And it's not the kid's fault that they have gotten a hold of these things. It's the parents' fault and the guardian's fault that they are exposed to these kinds of things.
Okay, so, and on top of that, if it wasn't a video game, if it wasn't GTA or Saints Row, which is the most recent one, I suppose, they would blame it on a movie that they saw on
Death
TV.
metal.
Death metal,
Yep.
Comic books.
Beeperism.
comic books.
Slayer, Marilyn Manson,
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and
Dungeons
Dragons,
and Dragons.
Pokemon,
Yeah.
Beeperism.
Harry Potter.
Twilight.
If people remember, people were blaming Harry Potter for like the decline
Satanism?
of youth in America. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter when I was.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I
remember
couldn't
the-
read it. It was boring.
Louis,
remember
were you
the-
allowed? Were you allowed to play violent video games though?
Because there has been a history of them.
No, well, I just never was interested in violent video games when I was little. I
Played-
played Pokemon.
You
Like,
never played
it's-
Doom?
Mortal
I
Kombat.
played like Mario and stuff. I was a Nintendo guy.
Hey,
Most
Mario is a violent video game.
so you
You're
like
jumping off people's
bopping
heads.
bopping little people on the head? Is that how it works?
yeah, physical violence. Not I'm a man. I jump on people.
With your powerful
Hand-to-hand
man
combat.
I punch
How-
blocks and get money.
And you throw fireballs.
Punch blocks, get money. That is the new motto.
That is the Louis way.
That is the title of this week's article.
Punch blocks, get money.
Yes.
Yep. Violence in video games.
So, I mean, the whole point of this is that there's always been a scapegoat for violent acts. Like, this is not new at all. Like, with Columbine, people were trying to blame Marilyn Manson for socially dejected kids acting out.
I blame kids being
Mhm.
kids.
I mean, the first major game to make waves, really, when I was young at least, was Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat was the big one.
Mortal
And
Kombat.
from that point up to now, there's always been some kind of excuse that video games are too violent, and that is why children are, because of that, becoming violent as well. I
mean,
never tried to rip anybody's head off and
Yeah.
watch their spine.
Yeah,
break.
my
pretended
big
to.
issue with blaming media for violent acts is that what about pre-video games? Like, what video games was Hitler playing?
He was
What
playing.
was Hitler listening to that made him so angry and so violent?
I'll tell you what
Hold on.
video game Hitler was playing. He was playing genocide.
Like, it's
Humans
it's-
are are innately violent, but when
Yeah,
we
like there are so many other social and societal factors
Yeah.
behind violent acts that are overlooked because there's an easy scapegoat being found in gaming, which happens to emulate violence.
Yeah, but when you have something that's kind of ingrained, and when you keep on getting it shown to you, yeah, you're more likely to become that way. I mean, it's
I
not
don't
gonna
think
make you
that's
actually,
accurate.
it's not going to make you actually lash out and violent, but yeah, it will shape you in some way if all
I
you
agree.
watch- if
No,
all
I
you watch
agree.
is like I don't know, violent shows.
Like
And
what
yeah,
you see, what you experience in games is important to how like it has an effect. We can't sit here arguing that like The Last of Us has such a really important emotional impact for us without also acknowledging that that game has other impacts, like violent impacts. Like if a game can emotionally move us, then it can have other effects on us, but it's not going to be the cause of people acting out physical acts.
Okay, and on top of
But
that,
it is one of like the reasons why it can horribly violent video games can desensitize you to violent actions,
but
and that's one of the problems too, is not?
But desensitizing isn't necessarily a bad thing, because the thing is, if the parents took the time, all right, to say, listen, or sit down with their kid while they're playing GTA or something like that, all right, and they say,
Sit down with their kid and
this-
play GTA.
Well, who sits down with their kid anymore? Who sits down with their kid anymore? Period, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody's
Nobody
got a
sits
Twitter
with
to
me.
include the parents. So what I'm saying is, if they were to sit down with their kid and play this game and say, listen, I want you to understand that this isn't real. This is not how things are done. We're doing this for fun, but you can't do this in real life. If they were to sit there and discuss that with their children, then I think it would be that desensitizing wouldn't be as big a deal, because the desensitizing would be done in a positive way. And that's why not only do we need to see video games as violent, but we also need to give accountability to the parents that are buying these games for the children, as well as the major corporations that are selling these games, because that grandma probably bought that kid GTA.
Right, and it's her fault.
Because he was a
Wait.
spoiled kid.
Well, that's an
it-
assumption.
it-
Kids
it's
will
her
get their
fault.
hands on
Have you ever seen
whatever they want.
Have you ever seen a grandparent try to use the internet?
Yes.
Okay,
It
do you
is
really
bad.
do you honestly think she knows what the ESRB is?
Nope.
So do you
Yes.
think that employee at that major game corporation explained what the ESRB was to her?
Nope.
So she said, my grandson wants a video game, so I'm going to buy it for him. She didn't even know that it was for adults only.
yeah, no, well,
Assumption,
GameStop.
but I also think that you also have to keep in mind that if you want something as a kid, you're probably going to be able to find a way to get it. And if
I was not
you
that
as
good.
a child, want to get your hands on GTA 4, you will have some kids' parents, some other friends' parents who are terribly irresponsible, some friends' parents, some friend who has an older brother who has this game. I
I don't think that a kid at 8 years old has the ability to like make that happen.
Yeah, I don't think they can manipulate it. He probably just told his grandma that all his friends were playing GTA. He wanted to play
Right.
GTA 2. She went into
Right.
GameStop. She had no idea what the ESRB was. So she had.
Yeah, but these are also still assumptions.
But they're required to explain that to the people. Like, more than likely, if you see an old granny come in and he's like, "Oh, I want Grand Theft Auto," it's most likely going to be for someone, one of her grandchildren.
Unless your grandmother is really hardcore.
yeah, but they still have to explain it to them.
Yeah,
So-
I think that's a
Yeah.
good part on the part of the retailer. Some accountability should be on their part, which is one of the things they have to do by law anyway. They have to check for ID in order to make sure that whoever's buying this game is of age at least, whoever's purchasing it.
Right.
But you should go a little further into it if you're going to have to explain to parents what
and I
this
know-
game entails.
And I know from experience, because everybody here knows I work for a retail store, a video game retail store, that we do explain it. The managers explain it, the people that care about their jobs explain it, but the seasonal guys, the 16, 17-year-old kids, they don't give a shit if they get fired.
Yeah.
So they're not going to explain it. They're just going to sell it because they want to make sales, because they want to keep their jobs. Now, at the same time, we also have secret shoppers that come in, and I explained this yesterday to you guys. We have secret shoppers come in, and when a secret shopper comes in, and it's like a kid and a parent, And you know how kids always want to handle money, or they want to swipe the credit card or whatever because it's cool. The younger ones, not the teenagers. Teenagers have their own credit cards.
I want to swipe the credit card.
So do I, every day, for myself. But the secret shoppers, what they'll do is they'll hand the money to the kids so that when they're buying the M-rated game for that child, the kid hands you the money. Now, we're being recorded, so what happens is if they see you making a transaction with that child, even if the parent's next to them, you're fired.
Wow.
So what you have to do is say, excuse me, sir, ma'am, I need to make the physical transaction of the money with you because I need to. That's your consent that you're buying this game for this child.
Which is a good thing.
Wow.
Which is a good thing. You know, if I don't always agree with the ratings boards because I think, well, for example, I don't think anybody really agrees with some of the ratings that the ratings boards come up with. But some things that we do agree on is children should not be playing M or AO or any sort of those kinds of games. And they should be kept from doing that. But about the ESRB ratings for M and AO, aren't they really too similar for your liking too?
Well,
Yeah, because it's 1 year difference.
1 year difference between M and AO,
And
and
it's
I
like
have
one
not seen
year
an
difference.
AO game in a very long time.
yeah, because most major retailers won't sell adult-only games.
That's the thing.
I
It's
don't-
very similar to movie ratings where
NC-17 and R.
yeah, where a lot of theaters and retailers will not sell NC-17 films, so producers and directors will try their best to make sure they're not hitting NC-17.
Right.
The problem with the comparisons between NC-17 and adult-only is when you go with NC-17, you're in for a movie. That is an intense, whether it's sex or violence, it's an intense movie. When you get an AO game, it's really not that different than a mature game. It's
So what
like-
you're saying is we
Right.
should get rid of M and just make everything AO.
I think that it should be revamped.
But
Yeah.
what I think Jay is saying is that developers will change small things to the game to make sure that it does not reach the AO level.
Right, I was talking about that yesterday, where the specific wording says prolonged sexual scenes or prolonged violent scenes. So if that prolonged is defined as 60 seconds, they'll make it 59 seconds.
Right.
They're-
And then, you got the government and lobbyists that are coming in and basically promoting their game to try to keep it down to a level where they can sell it. And that happens with NC-17 and R-rated films as well.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So there's ways to get around
So how do
the
you
way
think
it's set up.
that could be made better?
I think
Because
a lot of stuff
it's not a very efficient
is,
system, and it's
So-
basically a system that's been made to get around.
Stop
the-
letting people get around it.
Well, the thing is that I feel like there should be a larger section on the box, because this is something that Netflix actually does very well. If people use Netflix, there's the normal like MPAA rating with the Netflix
Mhm.
movie, and then there's Netflix rating, which goes into depth about, well, like here's like excessive gore, and explains why this is a thing, like why it's being labeled on this movie. It goes into a lot of detail. There's like a whole pop-up window, which you can't really do on a box, but it's a lot more detail about why that movie is getting a rating.
Okay,
I
so you
feel like that sort of thing, like just like AO or M or Peggy 18, like that's really, it's supposed to be a shortcut for people to understand, but if people don't know what that means, or they can't infer, or they don't do research,
Mhm.
then it's completely arbitrary and means nothing.
I think
So
you're
you would
underestimating
suggest, like, say, a bigger sticker slapped on the box rather than any changes to the
Well, let's
ESRB
put it this way here.
ratings
Here,
themselves.
I have look. I have Saints Row right here, right?
Yes.
Look how little that thing is right there.
Yeah.
All right.
It should,
And then where you get the detail is on the back. So what's the first thing you're going to see when you buy this game at a store?
just a little tiny
Picture.
The
thing.
little M. All right. Now, if you buy an album, like a music album, what do you see right in the front? Parental advisory,
yeah.
right? Explicit lyrics. So why is it that a game shouldn't go through that same thing? Parental advisory, violence and profanity in game, or something like that.
I think you're underestimating how smart the person that's buying the game. They're buying it. They're usually bought more than one. They know what they're getting into, and they feel like, oh, I can handle it. I mean, if you buy a movie, where's the little sticker that says the rating for that? It's on the back of it, and it's a little, oh, it's the same thing. People know what they're getting when they're buying a video game.
Well,
Right, but I think
the thing is that
I think you're underestimating. I think you're underestimating that kid manipulating somebody who doesn't know anything about the ESRB, going into that store and getting that game anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like, or you're overestimating the parent who wants to shut up their nagging child.
I don't know. I'm just saying the parent knows what they're doing when they get it.
That's the thing. I mean,
aren't weak-willed doing that. They just feel like, oh, my kid's mature enough. Oh, my kid can handle this.
See, that's what you would hope.
But
Realistically,
that's how it
unfortunately, I
is.
feel like it's not. Like a lot of parents don't. I feel, or at least a lot in the cases that we see where a violent video game is trying to be correlated with a violent act. Usually, there's like broken families or parents.
Broken families, but oftentimes
Don't
these
give a shit
people
about their
are very smart too. They're troubled, but they're quite intelligent.
Yeah, I just feel like
And
putting a bigger sticker wouldn't help anything. People know it's like putting a bigger sticker on smoking packages.
Right.
People know that smoking is bad for you. Bigger sticker won't really stop a person.
That's true. That is true.
All right, so what do you think would stop an adult from buying a game for a kid?
The adult being educated, but that's too much to ask.
Okay, other than being educated, what else can we do to make preventative measures?
Tax them.
More
Steph, you go home.
game because
I see what you're trying to do.
people go see movies, they know the rating, they know what they're in for, what kind of movie it's going to be by looking at the preview. When people buy games, all they see are kind of cinematic, oh, like this, and it's kind of happening too fast, they don't understand what's happening. And that's good for gamers. It's like, oh, that's really cool, but maybe for the uninformed, they don't know what's happening on the screen. If they were able to see what's actually being played, they can actually see, oh, wow, no way, I don't want my kid robbing a person in their car or whatever. I don't know.
Okay, so, I mean, somebody brought up cigarettes, right? Somebody said the warning on a cigarette label and whatever.
What about the taxes on the cigarettes?
To prevent people from smoking, what do we do? We're taxing the shit out of it. So do you think who brought it up? Who brought it up recently? What political figure?
Biden.
Biden said he wanted to tax violent video games, right?
He didn't say he
He
wanted
said there
to.
was
He
no
agreed.
legal reason not to.
Yeah, he agreed with the motion that was put in front of him from like religious representatives.
Honestly, I agree that they should probably put some sort of tax involved with violent video games, just like they do with everything else, that like what Jay's drinking and I'm drinking here and stuff. So it wouldn't stop violent video games from happening, but it would encourage lower
People to ask why, for example, why I have to pay more for this video game.
Well, but I'm saying like the developers will have less incentive to make a violent video game. So all the people who make buku bucks on making violent video games, they'll continue doing it and serve that. Everybody loves their violent video games every once in a while, but then the smaller people, like indies especially, they will always lean away from violence.
What counts as a violent video game? If I can stab chickens to death in Ocarina, or I can't because they're magical and
I'd say
they die.
if blood is involved, when the actual blood is involved, when
mature and
So if I took censored Left 4 Dead, that's not a violent video game anymore?
No, because
like if I took the Australian version.
Isn't there like
of Left 4
sexual
Dead.
content? There's a few like love kind of things, and there's some
Nobody loves zombies.
there's bad language
In Left 4 Dead?
right? Yeah.
Aren't there
Left
some
4 Dead,
love
no.
things?
No, I'm
Oh,
pretty sure
I don't
it's
know why
just escaping from
I was
from
thinking
zombies.
Walking Dead. I don't.
Maybe.
Yeah, but so
Maybe.
Left 4 Dead.
Nobody
I
loves
mean,
zombies. What are you talking
Maybe
about,
there
man?
are some weird sex things when people are involved.
But,
Well,
the
let's
act
put it
of
this.
killing.
You can't put a violent tax on something like this, though. One, because the Supreme Court has already ruled that it's protected. And if you were to begin taxing violent video games, what's to stop someone from taxing any violent art, like violent movies, violent
They
tax
should.
guns.
Yeah, well, I don't think that we should. The reason
think
that
that we
taxing
should either.
cigarettes makes sense is that cigarettes cause cancer. That's not new. That's research-proven fact.
But video games cause 8-year-olds to kill their grandmas.
There's no
I disagree.
research-proven fact. There's no all
That's
the
why
studies
they're
that are
trying
done.
another study.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
the studies generally the studies are poorly funded. They only take small samplings. They're not well done. If you actually look at them, most
No,
of them
they're
are
not.
terrible and they are not credible at
No,
all.
it's true.
If someone were to sit down and do a actually fully funded
Mhm.
research study to look into this, you want to know what they'd find out? That it's not violence that is causing that begets violence. It's aggressive competitive tendencies that are begetting more aggression. Like, honestly, look at football, hockey. Like, these are violent sports. I
That
believe that the
People enjoy
statistic-
because they're violent.
the statistic of football players, like professional American football player teams, I believe it was 22 out of 32 professional teams this past year have had players convicted of domestic violence disputes.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
Like, massive. Shut up.
That's football.
No, like,
sports.
it's honestly like there's so many cases of professional football players being convicted of crimes, committing horrible crimes, and yet like that is just kind of accepted because it's mainstream culture.
And let's not.
But like, gaming is not quite mainstream, or I mean, I think it is, but a lot of people don't consider it to be mainstream, and it's an easy scapegoat for this.
Mhm.
And not just. Let's not forget who's gonna. Okay, so if it's somebody's against video game violence, who's gonna fund that research? It's gonna be the person that wants to prove their point. So
Yeah.
that funding is always gonna go to I was
Well, unless
right.
it's a research university,
Okay.
Yeah, but it's most
which
like
there's not much research being done. I mean, media studies is a new field. It was the field that I was in, and it's new. Like there is some stuff there, but it's really new. It's being pioneered, and that level of research is not there yet.
I just find the whole thing ironic that like religious figures especially want to have like taxes on this violent video game, because I opened this book the other day. It had like incest, rape, genocide, murder, and like then I put it back in the pew at church.
Were you taxed for that book?
Huh? No, it's
Oh,
just,
the Bible.
It was
right.
given to you for
Oh,
free.
you're so smart, Brian. Ding.
it's the Bible.
Ding, Friday
That-
night.
It's one of the most violent books, but are we going to put a tax on that because
No, because they're protected by their religious rights.
they're pretty?
The religious right. I see what you did there.
Yeah, I get it. No, but it's just like that. If we start taxing that because they say, oh, this is an influence or this is an influence, it's just a slippery slope. Everyone gets taxed. You get taxed. You get taxed. Oh, there was a little bit of too much skin. Too many.
Louis Oprah giving everybody taxes
Louis.
now.
I was gonna say, well, that's the thing. But yeah, no, it's just depending on how far we get.
I was gonna say there's a contributor we have on GameSkinny called Tiger WDR. He does a show and he brought up this whole topic, and his point was the reason why the National Baseball League doesn't get any crap when somebody's killed with a baseball bat is because they have a huge legal division out to defend them, and anything like nobody even tries to sue them for anything like that because they have badass lawyers. Video games, we don't have that yet.
Can we have that? I
We're
want
getting
that.
there.
Hey,
EA
we're
getting
definitely sues a
That's
lot
a
of people.
really
I'm going
good
back
point
to
to
get
bring
the
up.
lawsuit. I'll be the video game lawyer.
The video game lawyer.
Pay me millions.
I don't always agree
I'll be
with
his
what Tiger
assistant.
WDR says, but that's a spot on point.
Yes,
right there.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. I think we should probably wrap up this
Yes,
conversation, though. We
yes.
have gotten a little long-winded in sections. But we all play violent video games. There's no denying that. Brian, what's yours?
Your favorite
Your
one.
favorite.
So
Your favorite
I've
one.
been thinking very deeply about this, and it depends on what you define violent video games. So if I were to put my finger on my favorite, most violent video game, I would have to say, and bear with me here, Civilization 5.
I was actually thinking of that. I am decimating this country,
Yeah,
and
so
I
think
like
about
it.
it. I just spent 4,000 years building my technology to get nuked, right? And I just bombed the planet. I just killed 7 billion people.
And you watched it happen, didn't you?
You
You had the cinematic
every
on.
nuclear sub to launch each nuke. I just decimated the planet. That's so violent. But you don't see the people dying, so it's okay.
Oh, you didn't turn on the animations, because they definitely do die. At
Yeah,
that
but you don't
point,
see
they're
the
probably...
blood. But you're only seeing like 15 people. You're not seeing 7 billion. And you're not
of
seeing
course.
the blood, and you're not seeing the aftermath of a nuclear explosion.
I think Brian just wanted to see the
Planet
death.
of the Apes is what happens afterwards. And then you're Charleston Heston, and you find the Statue of Liberty on the beach.
You blew it up! No! Alright, yes.
Ernesto, how about you?
I'm going to go with a hyper-violent video game that's based on a hyper-violent movie made by Rockstar, which is The Warriors.
The game? I know the movie.
Okay.
I didn't know there was a game.
There's a game called The
Yeah,
Warriors.
there is.
Rockstar made it in between GTA 3 and what was the one after? And all the Liberty City stories and all that other stuff.
I remember us bringing it up during the interview
So,
with Jason, but I don't.
What
know
was
anything
so
about
violent
it.
about the game?
So basically, the premise of the game was that you have you ever seen Clockwork Orange?
Yeah, I mean, I assume the Warriors game follows the movie.
Right. So yeah, basically you form your gang, and the whole point of the game is to just destroy the rest of the gangs that are throughout the game with whatever means you have necessary. So if you have a bat, you're basically bashing their brains in mid-game. And honorable mention, I should have mentioned this one too. Manhunt 2 for the Wii.
Yes. Yes.
If you guys haven't done research on Manhunt for the Wii or Manhunt 2, part of the game
man.
was to take your Wii remote and motion the way you would kill somebody. So if you were slicing them up or slicing their neck, you'd have to do this. Or if you were slicing through their body, you'd have to do this and then twist and then pull it out of their neck.
And now there's
So-
going to be a whole slew of video games blamed on Manhunt 2 because you just told them how to do it.
Oh no, it got pretty. The debates started pointing to it, and then people realized no one was buying it.
Yeah. Gary, how about you?
I have two.
Is it Final Fantasy?
I have two. First.
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy.
Did someone mention Final
First,
Fantasy?
we're going to go with Halo 4.
Yeah.
It's
I
awesome.
feel like that's less violent because
You're
Yeah.
shooting aliens, but it's still shooting.
you got a point.
And
yeah.
then, secondly, we're going to go with
Final Fantasy.
Oh, there it is.
And, yeah, because they're pretty much
Each year it
both
looks like
awesome.
Kirby.
Huh? Who? What?
Wait, it's because it's awesome
Yeah, they're both awesome. They're both,
on the violent spectrum?
well, on all the spectrums.
So how violent are they?
Well,
Gary's
specifically Final
non-biased
Fantasy.
review
Well,
of the
Everybody
Final
knows
Fantasies.
Halo, so how violent is Final Fantasy?
Well, you're hacking and slashing and stabbing and nuking and
Is there
nuke.
dismemberment
nuke?
and blood?
there's mild blood.
Okay.
Alright. So yeah, it's they tell someone to jump off a cliff,
Nice.
and so yeah, it's pretty intense. Like if you actually pay attention to what's going on, there's actual killing. You actually see characters die.
Not just that, remember, you're playing with a bunch of people, too. and they could be cursing up a storm, and they could be telling you to murder your family.
Oh, no, that's me telling them to.
Online interaction is always like that, somehow.
Okay.
Someone's gonna tell you to
As it
suck a
goes.
giant goblin dick.
Literally every League of Legends game ever. Right.
Yes.
Yep.
If you're not
I
getting
think I
prosecuted for
experienced all the
saying it.
lol,
Man.
just like that. Jay, how about you?
So I thought I knew for a second.
knew.
I thought I knew. I was gonna say my Hotline Miami because that is incredibly
Oh my
violent.
God.
It's pixelated, so people kind of dismiss it, but that is a gory
Yes.
game. It is phenomenal. Really, really fun to play. Like you play it over and over, and you're like, I just need to like rescue that hooker, kill this guy, stab him a couple times. It'll be great. But actually, Ernesto mentioned the Wii, and it kind of reminded me of No More Heroes.
Ooh, yeah.
Which
It's a
I know
good
when it's played that. It's a very, I wouldn't exactly say cartoony game. Like the
Stylized.
attitude, the tone is cartoony. It's very stylized. Good word. That is also extraordinarily gory.
I
Like,
really
you-
wanted to play that game.
It's phenomenal. It's really, really good. The whole premise of it is you're using the Wiimote as a beam sword, very lightsaber-esque, and you're just like literally hacking people's heads off and arms off, and they spew blood like it's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Sweet.
Like, it is all over. It is gory as hell. It's a great game. I love it.
Is this
I would
game
recommend it.
only on the Wii U?
And
It
to-
is.
No,
It
it's
is
not.
only
Not
on the
anymore.
Wii. Oh, you're right. You're right.
Paradise. Heroes Paradise came out, which is the same game,
You're
just
right.
the HD version that's on the PS3.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
Controller or like motion controller?
I want this game.
For the PS3,
Yeah, for the
it's
PS3.
just regular controller. I think
Okay.
the only things, and the other two notable things about it is to save the game, you go to the bathroom and you take a shit,
Yep. That
That's
is
one.
fact.
and to
Really?
yes, and to recharge
This feels like Duke Nukem.
to recharge your laser beam, you make a
Balls
very
of steel.
vulgar and specific motion.
Yeah.
To
The whole game is
Oh,
extremely vulgar.
Thanks, Louis.
It's phenomenally vulgar. And it's phenomenally violent, and I like both of those games are like great, and I cannot recommend them enough. But holy goddamn, they are violent, gory video games.
So don't let
Well,
your
now we
8-year-old
lost our religious viewers.
All
Yeah.
0 of them, fantastic.
Louis, how about you?
Well, this was an interesting question because what is a violent video game? And I honestly want to answer like something like Dead Space or Gears of War. Both graphic, violent chunks of bodies flying everywhere. But then that's not really like it's kind of like it's different. It's not getting into the moment. So I think what was something that was just completely shocking for people, and I'm thinking the No Russian level in Call of Duty, where you're actually firing on civilians with an automatic
Oh
weapon.
yeah.
And now I want to take that up to one more level. It's a game that I just bought and love it to death. It's fun, but Payday 2. You are robbing banks.
It is definitely the heist fantasy.
Yeah, it's a heist fantasy. I mean, people look at the movie Heat and say, "Oh man, that's such a violent movie." But this is actually living a lot of fantasies that are kind of inappropriate to have. But you're shooting cops, you're shooting.
Meth lab.
Yeah, and it's not like Grand Theft Auto shooting, which is kind of like you're away from the action. No, you're right up in it. They're hitting you, and then you can see them
I
play.
don't know. Floaty gun mechanics, though.
And you know what the great thing about that game too is to try to say with realistic to video game violence, you actually have to strategize a lot before you play that game and actually involve yourself in the robbery process before you even go in there.
Premeditate the crime.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's why I say that's the most violent video game, because all the stuff that people want to point to of like this is probably the best example of a game that might influence someone, because then you start thinking, wait, maybe I could really
I could really rob this jewelry store.
I really could if I had 3 competent friends.
With masks, ready to mask up.
And automatic weapons.
And automatic weapons. And now
You
they're
just
adding
want the
girls to the
shiny
mix. Or they
things.
want to.
Yeah,
By the
little
way.
Point Break, if you guys know what No.
Oh
it's a
yeah.
Keanu Reeves and
President Masks. Yeah. That's how I.
Patrick Swayze.
Yeah. Good movie.
He puts baby in the corner.
Different movie.
Real talk. Real talk.
All right.
you,
Steph.
Paul?
What about
Steph,
you?
how about you?
Steph, what about Steph? I
Who's Steph?
was a little, I couldn't figure out. I really like Unreal Tournament, and the entire, idea about that game is you run around killing each other, oftentimes exploding them in large gory chunks, and I do find that entertaining from time to time. But I was thinking, one of the best really violent games that I found really good lately, the mechanics of the game, not so good, but Spec Ops The Line is a really good game.
Yeah. Wow.
Is a really good,
Wow. Yeah.
unsettling at times game that you play, and
That's what I've
you
heard. That's actually a really good violent video game because it does unsettle you. It makes you really
it does
uncomfortable.
unsettle
about
you,
what
and
you're
it
doing.
gives you some of the implications of your actions in violence, which I think is necessary at times,
Showing you the
because it's not
consequences.
just a fantasy of of shooting people and being better than everyone else. There are actual consequences to what you do, and you get to see them, and it's hard.
Yeah.
And it's a
I know
good
exactly what
game.
What level you're talking about, and that's rough. That's. Yeah, I don't want to give away any spoilers.
Flashbacks.
Everyone has seen that scene on
PSD.
YouTube by now,
I
I think,
haven't.
but
The White
good
Fox.
lord, that hits you
Yeah.
hard.
So,
Stuff we're talking about in the news in Syria right now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
in closing, I just want to add one thing. If you feel like performing violence because of a video game, just look at the butterfly.
Or don't. Just that might make you actually angry. But
It's making
please
me angry
don't
right
be
now.
crazy. I think
Hulk.
is the message that we're going to go with.
I just like when the
Any of us
butterfly starts
have years
moving
to talk
in the
with
middle of
you.
the night. It's really awesome.
I have nothing to say to that
face.
I have nothing to say to that except good night, everyone. Don't mind him. We keep him around as a pet
They locked me in my room.
Good
Don't
with
job.
his
come
butterfly.
That tall headshots.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining
Bye.
us.
Peace.